So I welcome everybody who has joined us for this dialogue with Balipara Foundation. We are today connected to talk on forest for health, bridging ecosystem conservation and public well-being. We have some really great names with us who has joined us and who are able to give us the time for this beautiful conversation. The concept of this dialogue is that forest, as we believe, is a very important part of the ecosystem and the nature that we live in. And as a human, it is our duty to take care of it because out of all the beings that it is considered that we are the most responsible and intelligent being out of all the beings that are there on the mother earth, and it is our kind duty to take care of the forest that has been given to us and we have been blessed with. So that is the concept of today, that we are moving to a direction where we are forgetting the natural being of human and we are going to the very modernistic, we are calling it modernistic, but we do not really know that if it is the modernistic way of living where we are forgetting the culture, we are forgetting the nature, and we are neglecting the forest that has given us so much in our life. In this conversation, we will talk about how forest is an essential part for exhausting the carbon sinks and for observing the pollutants from the environment, which is one of the most important factor to live a healthy life. We are also going to talk about a healthy living where we can create a balance, that we are also consuming the good food from the forest and we are also giving the good food that the forest required from us. And we are trying to do it with integration and in intervening consonancing steps with the community that is there in the forest. So that is the line and the structure of this conversation, that in our conversation we are trying to bring the importance of forest in the well-being of a human being. So that is it from my side about the concept of this dialogue. And I really hope that whosoever has joined us, they will enjoy this session and we will be able to bring some really interesting insights and conversation to the board. With us, we have Dr. Vijay Kumar Madhukar Tate, who is the Senior Program Officer, Health Wildlife Conservation Trust, Mumbai. We have Vasumati Shrikant, she's the Chief Operating Officer, Public Risk Management Institute. She is currently in Canada and we are very happy that she has joined us from there. We also have Neelam Datta, who is the founder and managing director of Paboi Greens in Biswanath, Assam. I would request the panelists to one by one give their kind introduction so that we could prevail more into the conversation. So we can start with Vijay, sir.
Hello, I'm Dr. Vijay Tate. I'm basically working for Wildlife Conservation Trust as Senior Program Officer in the health vertical. So basically, we work to improve the health conditions of the forest staff, conducting preventive health checks for them, as well as building the capacities in terms of how they face emergency situations in the line of duty. So that's from my side. Thank you. And obviously, I would like to thank the Balipara Foundation over here for giving me this wonderful opportunity, and also greet the esteemed panelists over here. Good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Over to Vasumati, ma'am.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you, Nainika. Thank you to Balipara Foundation for inviting me to this forum. My name is Vasumati. I am with the Public Risk Management Institute, Prism Institute. We help manage public risks. So what do we mean by public risks? Is they are the risks that affect the ability of a community to achieve certain aspects of well-being, such as food security, health security, managing the climate change, resilience to climate change, etc. And this we do by using an integrated risk management approach that involves both identifying and analyzing risks and facilitating the co-design of interventions, whether it be policy or programs. And our main focus is use of outcome-based collaboration approach using disaggregated data, which is unique to each location to solve problems. And this we have been doing and working in different countries, including India, Nepal, UK, and Sub-Saharan Africa. That's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Over to Mr. Neelam Datta.
Hello, I'm Neelam Datta. I'm a farmer. I've been into this field since last 23 years. We basically have a gene pool of conserving old varieties and of rice, mostly. We conserve nearly 200 varieties, even more than that. and we're looking at the climate change, how they're coping up with climate, their disease resistance, and many more. And we also are a company where we sell organic seeds. We are the first certified organic seed company in the country and the first in Southeast Asia to be Demeter certified. We grow nearly 800 types of heirloom varieties, and we have a small integrated farm, and we also practice agroforestry. We have nearly 6,000 plants in the farm, and we also help build small communities in Nagaland and Arunachal. We are trying our best to have more food security and sovereignty. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the esteemed panelists. We are very fortunate to have you all three here with us, and we are ready to delve into the conversation that we tend to do over here. And I must mention that we have people from three different fields. So I think this conversation is going to be extremely interesting. We have a farmer on board. We have somebody from the tech and data space, and we do have a doctor as well. So I think this is going to be an interesting set of people, and we are going to make an interesting conversation. So we'll start with the first question, and that is, how do forests directly and indirectly contribute to the public health and well-being? And how are climate change and forest degradation creating a new health challenge? So basically, here we are trying to find out how forest is trying to contribute to the public health and well-being of the person, and degradation of it will lead to what health challenges. So I think we must go to the doctor at first.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So as we explore the complex relationship between our natural environment and public health, it's very crucial to first appreciate how forests both directly and indirectly contribute to our well-being, and how environmental changes are reshaping these contributions. Forests are more than just green spaces. Firstly, they are often called the lungs of a planet, as they purify the air, improving the air quality and reducing respiratory diseases. Secondly, forests play a pivotal role in regulating the water cycle. They act as natural reservoirs, filters, ensuring clean water sources essential for drinking and sanitation purposes, directly impacting public health by reducing waterborne diseases. Thirdly, and most importantly, forests are treasure troves of medicinal plants that many communities worldwide depend on to treat various ailments. Beyond these direct benefits, forests also support public health indirectly through carbon absorption, thereby mitigating climate change and stabilizing weather patterns, which is crucial for agriculture productivity, food security, and economic stability, which are basically fundamentals for public health. Forests also play a vital role in maintaining the ecosystem resilience through their diverse wildlife and plant species. This biodiversity supports essential functions such as pollination and soil health, which are crucial for human well-being. Despite their benefits, forests face challenges from climate change and degradation. Rising temperature and altered weather patterns aggravate natural disasters like fires and floods, threatening both forests and human health. For instance, changes in temperature and precipitation patterns can expand the range of disease-carrying vectors like mosquitoes, thereby increasing the incidence of malaria and dengue. Unsustainable logging here, land conversion, habitat fragmentation further degrade forests. This weakens ecosystem resilience, making communities more vulnerable to disease outbreaks. It also impacts traditional livelihoods and cultural practices, affecting mental health and community well-being here. So, thus prioritizing sustainable forest management, conservation, climate initiatives is essential to protect these vital ecosystems and uphold their ongoing benefits to public health across future generations. Reflecting on my own experiences during my previous engagement as a PMRD fellow, we had documented around 50 NTFVs used by local communities. That was in a district in Maharashtra. But many of the NTFVs were for nutritional and medicinal purposes, benefiting both people and livestock alike. For example, I have seen grassroots NGOs prepare laddus from these NTFVs, to give a small example. These were basically given to pregnant ladies and lactating mothers for their nutritional value it had. These are just a few examples of how forest products are leveraged by the local community for medicinal and nutritional purposes. I will basically conclude with the saying, nature always gives back in abundance, regardless of our actions. It is our responsibility to conserve nature and fully harness its benefits for our well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think, sir, since you practice in Ayurveda is what I've read. So one of the important factor in Ayurveda for treating any kind of treatment in Ayurveda is actually coming from the environment and from the jungles actually. So I think there is a lot of that even I think if we go to the concept of the five tattvas in our body, so that five
Yes.
tattvas, if I like, maybe you could explain, and I think there is a lot to do when it comes to the five tattvas. Then the nature and the forest is an important factor. So what we have inside is also what we have outside in the nature.
So basically, the five tattvas, the Vayu, or Ayurveda basically depends on three doshas basically. We have Vata, Kapha, and Pitta dosha. So obviously, all the medicinal plants. Firstly, what we do is assess what the doshas in the human body is. Basically, what their lifestyle is, what their nutrition or dietary factors. We basically factor those in, and accordingly we give treatment to those. So obviously, all the medicinal plants. For example, take the example of a neem tree, which is very cherished in the Indian culture. It offers treatments for skin disorders, fevers, and dental health. So there are a lot of even to take an example in South America, the cinchona tree basically provided quinine, which is a groundbreaking malaria treatment. So
Right.
a lot of medicinal trees, even if you see these antifreeze that were used for medicinal purposes, whether they are used in some small areas in Maharashtra, they will be used in a very different manner for different ailment altogether in some other basically state. So it obviously depends on the locations and how they use it. This knowledge basically runs down through generations. It's not written down. It's obviously through word of mouth that this knowledge is spread, and as obviously through experimentation and observation that is been run down through the generations. So this is how doshas or panchtattvas and in Ayurveda as well as in human life style, we basically mix those things and offer a better treatment to the patients. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. If I may invite Mr. Datta, since he's been living and he's been very closely interacting with the nature and the farming. So I would again ask you the same question, that how forest is so important in the well-being of us, and its degradation can lead to a very new kind of health challenges that is happening today.
I mean, my previous speaker have already spoken all of it, so there is hardly to say. But from a perspective of a farmer, I would say that we have to create. I mean, there are forests, there are places. I mean, or the reserve forest, or the wildlife sanctuaries, or the protected parks. But apart from that, we as farmers, because we are the largest contributor of deforestation by doing farming, so it is also our duty and our responsibility to create. So for me, yes, being a professional, we can't only grow trees, but we are into the food forest. So that's why I told you that we have ample number of trees where it not only gives fruits, but it also gives us a space to be within. And from a philosophical point of view, forests are something where you feel the heart and the lungs. That's what I have to say.
Very aptly said. I will now invite Ms. Shrikant if she wants to add an opening statement to this question.
Yeah, I'll agree that I'm no expert in this field. And I think both the previous speakers have spoken to the importance of forest and how it contributes in a big way. The only thing I would like to add is it's also in addition to the plants and other medicinal ingredients. The one thing we find, which is also a problem because of the deforestation, is there are more wildlife encounters which are harmful to the people living in the area. So you also we are seeing a lot more of injuries and death due to such encounters. That is one of the issues that is coming out of the climate change. The other thing we have during our field visit in Nagaland and Assam, one of the things we heard from the community is, even though they do have sufficient food, they lack the nutritional quality because they are now no longer able to access some of the foods that they used to traditionally access from the forests. And because of that, they are experiencing certain chronic health issues like diabetes, etc., which they previously, in a previous generation, they were not seeing. So and the other thing is also because of the forced migration of many of these people, because they move out to seek jobs or better education facilities. A lot of the knowledge which is being passed down by cultural practices and word of mouth, just like Dr. Vijay said, is being lost, and that is also having an impact. And that's what I would say.
Yes, absolutely. I think, so much that we are going away from nature, so much is happening. I mean, we are now trying to take a lot of external kind of things to make sure that our body's having the right kind of nutrition. If we would have been well integrated with the nature, I think that would have never been the case. Now we are taking pills for proteins, we're taking pills for vitamin, nutrition, etc. I'm not sure if this was a common thing in the previous generation. I think this is very common nowadays that we are taking pills for everything. But I'm pretty sure, and I think most of the people would agree of our generation as well, that if we would have been more in consonance with the nature and forest, then such things would have not been a requirement. So thank you so much for the opening statement. And now we move to the second leg of the discussion, and that is, how do indigenous and traditional practices highlight the profound health benefits of the forest? Can you discuss the potential scope and opportunities for integrating traditional knowledge of health and medicine into the ecosystem of conservation efforts? So this is absolutely a very
Sorry, you were muted for some time.
yeah. So I hope I'm audible. Now I'm back. So yes, I think this is an absolutely, now this whole conversation is very much in vogue, because I see a lot of people now are trying to go back to the traditional knowledge, and they are trying to integrate that traditional knowledge into the lifestyle. I think there was a sense of 2 decades when we kind of moved a lot to the non-traditional way of living, but now this is what I could sense, that we are again moving to the traditional side of it. So my question is to all the three panelists, that how do indigenous and traditional practices highlight the profound health benefits, and how can we integrate the same into the well-being of human and into the well-being of forest? So probably we can start with Mr. Datta.
That's a very valid point, and what I have observed personally by working in Nagaland for the last 17 years is people hardly fall sick. That is only because of the forest they have. And also in Arunachal, in the western landscape where we are working since like 9 years, we have seen that they really respect the forest because they get everything from the forest. And also, if you see the traditional know-how, even in farming, most of the practices or the bioformulants that we use for our pest repellent and many other things are all being collected from the forest. So there's always there's always the wisdom that has been carried through generations in order to uphold this unique system. But with the advent of globalization and modernization, and also few corporations, we are compelled to use certain things, which I think there is always an alternative. And even in agricultural field, even in our case, since last 23 years, we haven't used any inputs from outside. Whatever we can collect from the wild are being reused in the fields. So that's what I have to say.
I think that's very true, because I personally also, I come from a place, from a very I would say from a region, from the Himalayan region. I also come from there, and I've also observed this, that when I used to live outside in the cities, I used to, get sick very early. Like, it was such a case that you eat out or you go out, you exert your body and you are not well. But when you come back to the closer to the nature, closer to the forest, I totally second that. Even I see that people tend to fall sick very less. I mean, I'm not saying they don't fall sick, but sometimes I also feel maybe it's the psychology, because the life in the cities are very hard as well. I mean, it's not very good for the mental health. But I think I completely second that. Now we can move to Dr. Tate. I think he could really give us some very exceptional point of view over here, because I feel traditional knowledge has played a very important role in the whole, the concept of Ayurveda.
So obviously we have talked about the how basically forests are not just collection of trees. They are basically living pharmacies since traditions known for the local communities. We have already talked about how these local communities make use the anti-FPs or medicinal plants for treating the daily ailments basically or chronic diseases as well. Man has also spoken about how the forest offers a wealth of nutritional resources for the local communities. So basically, they have been harvested the wild fruits, nuts, and roots for the nutritional value they have. So this dietary diversity not only enriches the nutrition but also builds resilience against food scarcity as well as nutritional deficiencies. So we already spoken much about that, but what we haven't spoken is how the local communities are deeply connected with the forest. How deep the culture and spiritual significance for these forests are for the indigenous peoples. There are some spaces in forests which are basically sacred spaces for the local communities to conduct rituals, ceremonies, as well as traditional practices. So this not only basically it fosters a sense of identity to the community, a sense of cohesion for the community, as well as it's very good for the mental well-being as well. So already spoken a lot about this. So what should be done? Sir has already spoken about the wisdom of and how to heed about this wisdom in of traditional practices. But what can be done to basically how to integrate this traditional wisdom into conservation efforts? So basically, we can do that by safeguarding plant species, identifying, documenting. So there's no documentation basically as such. What is there is through cultural practices or word of mouth, basically. So there's no basic documentation that has been done. So it's very relevant to document these plant species which are basically vital for human health. We can have strategies like establishing gardens for medicinal plants, promoting scientifically supporting traditional harvesting practices. Now, I won't say like all the traditional harvesting practices are sustainable. So this should be scientifically backed as well. And we also need to support the traditional healers. Basically, these informal providers are something that we don't look up to. So that's a very demeaning thing for them. So we need to support the traditional healers over here. How we can scientifically support them, how we can build their capacities, is basically all a collaborative effort that should be done. So this integration can be achieved through interdisciplinary research collaboration among scientists, traditional knowledge holders, conservation practitioners, integrating indigenous perspectives into decision making fosters equitable governance. Cultural sensitivity will be maintained, and this will be like a community driven conservation effort. So obviously this will be more sustainable than what we have today. Raising awareness of traditional knowledge through education and capacity building programs will not only empower the community to sustainably manage natural resources, but training programs for youth and community members, for the community leaders, can promote environmental stewardship and intergenerational knowledge sharing also. So integrating this traditional knowledge into conservation offers a promising approach to sustainable development and biodiversity conservation as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rate. I think that's a very important factor that, the traditional knowledge should be equally used for the well-being of the forest, conservation of the forest, and the conservation and health of the human being as well. So it has to go in a consonance value. Now I move on to Ms. Shrikant, and I would really appreciate her views on how we can use this traditional knowledge and integrate it into the conservation of the forest.
Yes, so Dr. Vijay has extensively explained it. One of the things I think is a lot of this knowledge, the traditional knowledge, is being lost because of the migratory patterns and the fact that the mainstream scientific community ignores the knowledge that is present in these communities. For example, like in Canada, where I am, a lot of the knowledge on the migratory patterns of wildlife or the harvesting patterns are resting with the indigenous community. Like the caribou, which is a huge source of food, and in Canada, it has certain very unique migratory patterns which change every 60 years. And there are only a few indigenous elders who hold that knowledge. Similarly, you have many other knowledge which just stay with a few communities. So one of the ways in which I think we can help is by bringing out the data and knowledge that rests in these communities by documenting them and bringing them into mainstream science. So not only is there a transfer of such knowledge to the next generation, but it is also paving the way for testing these ideas and whatever remedies and nutritional benefits that are resting with the local communities to the wider body to see if what are relevant and what can be integrated into the whole ecosystem. This way, both the wildlife conservation is helped, and you have the human health being promoted.
Right. Right. I think that's a very, very practical and very, very important suggestion that has been given. I mean, that's for sure that if it is not migrating, then also I think we are somewhere losing the traditional knowledge, because it is word of mouth that is passing from one generation to another generation. And in that process of passing of that word of mouth, we tend to not have the correct version ahead. And that is, I think, a problem of communication. So I think that's a very, very doable, very important suggestion, that we should, now is the time that we should start documenting, because we've realized the need of it. So that's a great suggestion. Now I open the forum for the attendees. If there's any question, anything to be added from anybody over here, we are open to any question and any suggestions. Okay, so we can move ahead. We can move to the third leg of this discussion, and that is, how can cross-disciplinary collaboration between forestry experts, health professionals, and local stakeholders be strengthened to address both forest and human health in the region. So that's, I think, a very important discussion that has to be dealt. And we may start with Ms. Shrikant.
Yeah. First of all, I'll like to say that our work has largely been around adopting a collaborative and cross-disciplinary approach to solving problems. So it is based on the concept of outcome-based collaboration, OBC, which is developed by Professor Christopher Hodges of Oxford University. We believe that collaborative approach yields the best outcomes. However, when we say an OBC, what do we mean? There are three basic main key components to ensure that a collaboration like that is successful. Firstly, we agree on a formal set of outcomes and purpose, whether it is conservation efforts or trying to integrate the documentation or anything else like that. Because when we have a common set of purpose, that helps. Like, often what is the problem is we have different stakeholders at the table, and each one would like to advocate for a different set of outcomes or objectives. And what that results in is there is wasted effort. If we are able to come to a consensus on what is needed to be pursued, then that helps towards a common purpose and objective. And secondly, the other thing is it is essential for each party, each stakeholder in the process to feel empowered and be an equal party, so that they can co-create, bring solutions, they can co-create solutions, they can bring forth ideas, and also takes responsibility for the ideas and the efforts that they bring in. Thirdly, the success of any collaborative approach, it hinges on the level of trust between the parties. One of the key things we find is there is a lack of trust between the local community dwellers and any experts that come in from outside for pursuing conservation efforts. And that is because there is a lack of trust between the two parties. And for trust to be built up, it is data and evidence is an important part. If we are able to collect enough data and evidence, that can help strengthen the trust between the parties. And how do we do that? The data and evidence should show how much progress is being made towards the goal that has been decided at the outset, and such as like improvement of forest health, or improving the natural habitat, or something like that. So if we have trust and evidence that can describe the process, that data and evidence that improves the trust. And in this, the role of an independent, unbiased facilitator who helps to bring together these disparate stakeholders to engage in an honest conversation is crucial. And usually this is the role that Prism Institute provides. As an example, we've been helping a community in Scotland to transition towards its goal of achieving net zero through the means of just transition. Essentially, we are making sure that they are able to achieve their net zero outcome by ensuring that the socioeconomic well-being and the livelihood of the community is not affected adversely because of the progress towards net zero outcomes. A similar approach to improving the forest and human health in the Himalayan region would help greatly, is what we feel. Thank you. Sorry, you're muted, Asa.
Okay, I'm so sorry. So I think that's a very valid point, that when we go back to these communities, they always have this perception that why people from outside are coming to our place and telling us what to do. And to build that kind of confidence, we do need a strong data, and I think a lot of compassion as well, ma'am. I think that, just to add, because these people are also driven by a lot of emotion, I feel. I mean, we see nature from a very extensive and outside perspective, but they are, as a community, part of that nature and forest. So while we try to communicate with them with a lot of data and try to tell them the logical answers, I think we also require a lot of compassion. And I think in that step, um, the government is also trying to give special status and special. There is a lot of, I feel, there is a lot of special status and other policies that has been built upon this whole concept, where, I mean, we try to create that kind of balance and confidence that the people believe in us and move with us. So I think that's what I believe. And now I invite Dr. Tate on the same subject, that what is the perspective of the same from the other side?
Taking forward for about what man has basically mentioned just now, I would like to introduce the concept of One Health over here. So this is not a new concept. This has been there for like many years, almost 3-4 decades. But this has gained precedence post the COVID pandemic. So what is One Health? At its core, the One Health acknowledges the interconnectedness of human, animal, and environmental health. It recognizes that the health of individuals cannot be separated from the health of ecosystem they depend upon. So to better understand the concept of One Health, let us take an example of a Rubik's Cube. The Rubik's Cube is a 3D puzzle with six faces of different colors, each composed of 9 smaller blocks. Similarly, One Health addresses interconnected issues across multiple disciplines: the human health, animal health, as well as the environmental. Just as solving of one phase of a Rubik's Cube can disturb the others, actions that affect human health can also impact animal populations and vice versa. Also, just as solving a Rubik's Cube requires considering the entire structure rather than individual faces, solving the One Health puzzle requires collaboration across sectors, be it healthcare, veterinary sciences, environmental conservation, policy making, community engagement. Each discipline over here offers unique perspectives and solutions to address the complex and interconnected challenges. So how do we do it? How do we make it happen? For that, we need to foster collaborative research initiatives that integrate ecological data with health indicators. This includes monitoring biodiversity changes alongside human and animal health metrics such as disease prevalence. Sharing the data will only enhance our understanding of the complex interactions between the forest ecosystem and the health outcomes. But how do we do it at the local level? So for that, we need to identify the stakeholders here based on the local context and encourage their regular meetings, workshops, and collaborative projects for knowledge exchange, sharing of challenges, and brainstorming solutions to address common health concerns. The local community here should also be empowered with the knowledge and skills to actively participate in monitoring, conservation efforts, as well as the health promotion activities. They should be encouraged as well as supported to take up sustainable practices such as waste management, sustainable agriculture practices, and responsible livestock ownership. I can provide an example of a successful One Health initiative in India. The Casinur forest disease is a vector-borne hemorrhagic fever endemic Wayanad, Kerala. Since the epidemic in 2015, they have effectively managed outbreaks through successful implementation of the One Health approach. So how do they did it? So basically, this initiative focused on collaborative efforts among regional institutions, including district medical officer, the animal husbandry officer, forest officer, veterinary universities, tribal development officers, among others, who were basically led by the district administration. So obviously, we can make this happen at the local level as well as at the regional, district, or state level, and at the national level too. To conclude, I would say that there is no universal solution to this. There are guidelines and framework available to help achieve similar outcomes, taking into account the local context. Thus, integrating One Health principles into cross-disciplinary collaborations will lead the way for sustainable development and improved health outcomes for all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tate. I think that's a very valid point. And on that point, I request Mr. Datta, because since I think he would be dealing very closely with the people over there, like the people from the other side. So, I mean, one suggestion is obviously that data, we can bring the data and we can try to get them on our side and we can work in collaboration. And then second, given by Dr. Tate, is that the collaboration should be done in that sense that both sides of the conversation is taken ahead and we move forward with the local community in a very local way. So what do you think is that what are your suggestions to take this forward, and how much of that is happening on ground?
I mean, I cannot suggest, but I can request that we always do a top-down approach. So if it should be a bottom-up approach in this kind of respect, then it really makes sense. And also, right from the childhood, like if you see in the Scandinavian countries, you have the forest kindergarten and all. So the wisdom are being passed through generations only through mouth or through practices. They're never documented, or even if they're documented, there is no one to come and study them. So, but I personally believe is, on ground level, if we can make green warriors or young green savers, then things should percolate to the top.
All right, thank you so much. We have one question, and this is by Dipankar Sodhi. He's a UFO fellow, and he says that while I was in my field visit, I came across a case study in a particular region where the native used to heal the illness of snake bite by some traditional knowledge. And his question is, how should we approach the documentation of these traditional practices so that it may lay the path for future investigation by mainstream scientists and receive the exposure it requires to be studied further? So maybe Dr. Tate would give us a good insight on it.
Yeah. So basically, there are some myths to be busted over here. So traditional knowledge, treating a snake bite. So is it really successful? That's one question that should come to our mind when you say that traditional practitioners can treat snake bites. So there are two things. So first of all, if the bite was through a venomous snake or a non-venomous snake. If it's through non-venomous snake, obviously there's no harm as such or any danger to life. And obviously, so if you go to the traditional healers, they will be like treated and very well. Basically, the prognosis will be good. So to give you some statistics, we have like around 300 species of snakes over here, of which like more than 60 are venomous. Of these, only 4 are highly venomous over here. So if you, for example, if you consider 100 snake bites over here, almost 70 to 80% of snake bites are due because of the non-venomous snakes. So there is no danger to life. There's no basically any threatening of life over here. Remaining 15%, almost 15% of snake bites are due to venomous snake bites, but these are all actually called dry bites. So the snake, the venomous snake, obviously has done the bite, but they haven't instilled the venom in the body of the victim. So obviously, even here there is no basically any question or danger to life as such. So almost 90 to 95% of cases are basically non-threatening as such. So if we go to the traditional healers, the success rate will be also high, because the number of cases where non-venomous snake have bitten are more in this case. So we need to look at this in a very fact way, access the facts that we have, whether it was venomous, non-venomous, that we don't know. But obviously, taking them to a traditional healer is no treatment for that. The victim has to be taken to a hospital where there are facilities available to administer anti-snake venom if it's because of a non-venomous snake bite. So this is my point of view, and this is actually backed by science. So thank you. You're muted.
I think that's a very valid point, that when we are going to the traditional knowledge has to be credible. That is the first question, that what we are consuming as a knowledge has to be credible and it has to be backed by science. So I moved to Ms. Shrikant, and I asked this question, that when we are trying to restore this traditional knowledge and use it further and also make it more rich, how can we do that? By technology and data, one. And second, how do we find the credibility of it? Through technology and data again.
Yeah. Like I would say, one of the things is we should be able to pass on the knowledge. So that is one of the key things. This can be done by building capacity among the youth in the community. So we can create data warriors, so they know what are the various venomous snakes, what are the non-venomous snakes, or any other traditional knowledge can be passed on. And also these the youth can be trained in technology and data science, so that they are able to understand how to collect data, how to analyze it, how to make sure that the data they are collecting is credible. That is one of the ways in which when we are passing on the knowledge, we are making sure that it is also credible knowledge that moves on. So how do we look at it? One of the approaches which we've been advocating is the use of risk as a metric. So when we look at, say, any specific aspect of human health, and if we have knowledge that the presence or the absence of a certain technique or a cultural practice either increases the risks or decreases the risk, that gives us some credible basis to say, yes, this practice is contributing to the reduction of this specific risk. So because we have this cultural practice, then the risks to human health in say in terms of reduced illness of a particular kind, or reduction in certain kind of injuries, that risk has reduced. That can provide the basis to say that there is some merit to this practice, and then it can be presented to the expert community to be tested further to see whether those practices can be included in the science base on a permanent basis, and investigated further included in traditional, like in regular mainstream science, and used in a proper manner. So what it does is it helps to validate the credibility of such knowledge, which has largely been only anecdotal and moved in the informal sphere. That helps, yeah.
Thank you so much, Ms. Shrikant. If Mr. Datta would like to add anything to this question, Mr. Datta, are you there? Okay. I think we can move to the next question, and that is, how can we ensure the mental and physical well-being of the frontline conservation workers who are often exposed to challenging environments and high stress level, what strategies can be implemented to provide adequate support and resource for health to local community and forest officials who are the primary stewards of our forest? So I think we can go to Mr. Datta on this question. I think he would be the best person to tell us that how do we do this, Mr. Datta? Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I was having a call. So yeah, that I really believe that, and that's very evident in Kaziranga, where the frontline officers, they hardly would come and meet their families. So if you see most of the army men who are in the borderlines, there's also the same case of having suicide or having mental problems because of not having a social or physical attachment to their family. So I strongly believe if we can integrate those kind of things like the families or to integrate school systems near the forest where the families can also stay and where the foresters would come and meet every time. And then I think that can be a good solution for people who are into this profession.
Right. I think that's a very valid suggestion. But when we are bringing the families and the kids to the place, we also have to make sure that their requirements, their whatever, like when a family comes, there are a lot of requirements that have to be dealt. So that has to be taken care by the people who are doing working towards it.
So we have to create that kind of a mechanism. Like earlier, there are societies small. Like if you take the case of cities, you have this apartments and all where 20, 30 families stay together and they have kind of a coherent relationship among all. So if you can create those kind of things, like even though there is no school, there should be school buses for them to get. There should be good medical facilities. There should be extracurricular activities for their family members. I think this kind of mechanism will work.
Right, right. That again make me to the another question that if we bring all of that to the forest, then the forest may not like it. I think there's a challenge also, difficulty also in that sense.
See, it's not that they have to stay in the forest, in the vicinity of the forest. Take the case of Kaziranga or Manas National Park. It's a huge area. The forest guards or the forest frontline officers just stay inside the park in those anti-poaching camps. And apart from now, earlier they have the satellite phones or the Wi-Fi, but now they have, mobile phones. If they have good internet, they can scroll, all these reels and all. Apart from them, it doesn't have any other activities apart from protecting the forest. So, and also I have seen practically is that the good officers or the good frontline staff were never given leave because they're the ones who are the protector of the forest. So if that kind of opportunity or that kind of a society can be built up in the vicinity of the forest, not in the forest, but in the buffer where there is, populace where they can stay. I think that can be a solution.
Right. Thank you. Ms. Shrikant, would you like to add something to this?
I think Mr. Datta really provided some very important solutions. From my side, I would say that a collaborative effort where everyone feels included is very important. So one of the things which I guess these officers face in these situations is the sense of isolation. So if from the outset a collaborative environment is created where both the officers feel empowered as well as the community feels empowered. If the community feels empowered and they feel that they are being consulted in a meaningful manner, then they are also going to be, they are more likely to make it easy for the outsiders to work there in a manner that is less stressful. So I would say just creating that environment would also be it's a huge help to reducing the stress.
Thank you. Dr. Tati, would you like to add?
Sure. So basically, as we are approaching the World Rangers Day on the 31st of July, there's no better time to discuss this. So thank you very much for raising this question. I obviously second with what Sir and Madam has just mentioned. But before addressing this question, it is crucial to recognize the pivotal role of forest staff and also acknowledge the mental and physical challenges they endure in fulfilling their duties. So basically, they are the gatekeepers at the interface between environment, humans, and animals. Operating at this critical junction, they face high risk, including life-threatening emergencies such as road accidents, falls, animal attacks, confrontation with poachers, or aggrieved local community members. So if you see globally, approximately 4 out of 5 forest staff have encountered life-threatening emergencies. India is one of the deadliest countries for forest staff, accounting for almost a third of all ranger deaths. since 2012. So talking about the anti-poaching camps, these are basically very basic camps with inadequate facilities, including limited access to sanitation facilities or clean water. This concern has been well documented globally as well as been validated by WCT's own survey. We at WCT have performed health assessments on more than 18,000 forest staff in 30 protected areas across 7 states in the country, which have effectively revealed risk of NCDs among forest staff who were previously unaware of their health profiles. Talking about the health infrastructure, we all know that the health infrastructure in remote rural areas is very problematic, and this is not only for the forest staff but also for the communities residing near the forest. Our findings have also suggested while primary healthcare are readily accessible, accessing secondary and tertiary care for more complex health issues remains a considerable challenge. Coming to the mental health, we obviously often relate nature as a source of rejuvenation, but protecting it under challenging work conditions and can create considerable pressure and stress. These forest staff endure extended separations from their families, like Sir has mentioned, in isolation in remote and hard to reach locations where possibly there will be no network as well. They face life-threatening risks. So despite their strong commitment to combating illegal activities in protected areas, these factors significantly impact the mental well-being. So we had at WCD, we have dedicated significant efforts to deeply explore the complex factors influencing the health of forest staff. Obviously, again, here the One Health approach holds significant promise. However, having said that, its success depends on effective collaboration among various stakeholders within a complex system. This would include the forest staff, the local communities who understand their needs, NGOs, conservation NGOs contributing the expertise and resources. The government departments can guide policy changes and resource allocation over here. Basically, there should be regular consultation, workshops, and feedback mechanisms to promote stakeholder engagement and ensure successful implementation of any health interventions. Talking about the data which is lacking as far as the health of forest staff are concerned, so there has to be a robust system for data collection and analysis with a multidisciplinary team of medical officers, NGOs, forest department, as well as data analysts. This continuous data collection on health-related incidents, health checks, or work stressors is critical for early detection and targeted interventions. So how do we provide with the health infrastructure, like in how do we provide health resources to the forest staff or the communities residing near the forest in the remote forest areas? So here we need to identify and train local medical practitioners as well as the informal providers. Particularly the informal providers are mostly rooted in local communities and understand the environments and challenges that are faced by the forest staff. So through specialized training, they can gain skills to manage common health issues, provide basic first aid, and recognize when to refer to professional medical services. So another way is to implement the telemedicine services such as e-Sanjeevani OPD, which we already have, which is basically a central scheme which can greatly improve the healthcare access in remote forest areas. Obviously, this will require collaborative efforts to ensure sufficient infrastructure and resources are in place. Here, I would like to mention that senior forest officials should undergo human resource management training to increase the sense of accountability on ownership. Moreover, a grievance redressal system should be set up to ensure the welfare of staff by addressing work-related concerns fairly, promoting trust, and cultivating a supportive work atmosphere. These are just some of the strategies that can be implemented to provide adequate support and resources for health in remote forest areas. We at WCT have detailed these challenges and proposed practical solutions in a recent white paper that we have submitted to relevant authorities for appropriate action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tate. I think this is very important, and I think as you mentioned, we are taking step towards it. We are doing and we are working towards it because mental health, and I mean they are the frontline workers, and if they are not in a good state of mind, how would they will be able to conserve? They have to the conservation has to start from inside, I feel, and then it has to move outside. So thank you, and now we move to the last leg of the conversation, and the question is that how does the adoption of sustainable agricultural practices such as agroforestry influence public health outcomes in the eastern Himalayas, and how can these practices be leveraged to enhance both environmental and public well-being? So anybody can start.
We'll start.
Maybe you can start.
Yeah, we tried our best of planting certain plants by the roads once. Still, few of them survive, but yes, but it's a multi-stakeholders activity to make it viable. But yes, I still believe that yes, that can be a very good source of having forests as well as food. If you see both sides of the highway and in Assam particularly, apart from very less rainfall during the during the winter period, like 3.5 months, we don't have to nurture the plant as we need to do in other parts of the world. And in the Eastern Himalayas, we have a very good monsoon. We have lots of rain, and our soil fertility is very good to for the growth of the plants. And I think we should discuss on this further of what kind of fruit plants or what kind of good plants can be integrated in this system.
Right. I think one of the example that comes to my mind, because I'm from Himachal, I've seen that there is this tree. We call it. I don't know what is the name of that tree, but it is a very tall, white colored tree, and it says that the forest has planted this tree, and because it does not require much of I mean, there is no such requirement to come and check. It grows by itself. But there is also this discussion. I don't know how valid is the discussion that these trees are very easy to grow, but they are very much like they take out all the nutrition from the soil. So I think that also happened.
I think those are eucalyptus. I think that's also a very big point to discuss of that we should not integrate plants which are not from our ecosystem, which is very important. We should not also encourage invasive species like poplar or eucalyptus or something. So it should be very much the lesser minor fruits or trees which are from type locality.
Right. So thank you so much. Ms. Shrikant, would you like to add something?
Yeah, Mr. Datta made some really good points. So while I'm not an expert on agroforestry per se, one of the things I would say is like the pursuit of sustainable agroforestry will help not only the environment, it also helps the communities in their livelihoods. So one thing which we have consistently seen across our work is that there is interconnectedness in every aspect of well-being. So if there isn't enough food, then it affects the health, and that can affect education, infrastructure, climate, housing, everything. So having a good agroforestry practice which conserves forests will help both in the socioeconomic well-being of the community. It will also help the health, and it is going to help the climate resilience. So one of the things we have noticed, like in one of our projects in Zambia, is they have a single crop agriculture going on, and because of that, even though they are sitting on a fertile land, they suffer from frequent droughts and other issues. So a place like that, in introduction of a multi-crop agroforestry based solution would definitely be a helpful one. So I think that the one of the key things that such practices can do is they help in a holistic manner. They not only address the key issue, which is conserving the climate, it is also contributing to the other aspects of well-being, such as livelihood, health, etc.
Right. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Tate.
So I'm no expertise in this, but I will obviously second what ma'am and sir has just mentioned, that our agricultural decisions today will influence not only our future food scarcity, security, but also the health of our planet and our communities as well. Sustainable agriculture practices will obviously improve the public health by reducing exposure to harmful chemicals, pesticides, promoting healthier diets, and obviously in preserving traditional farming knowledge as well. So it will also help us support the local food system and with shorter supply chains, which will not only enhance the food sovereignty and resilience to basically to global disruptions. So I'll obviously, I'm not an expertise, so I have this much to say on this topic.
All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Tate. And now we've come to the closure of this this session. And it was indeed a pleasure. And I hope all the attendees have got a beautiful opportunity and got great insights. Now I invite all the three panelists if they have any concluding remarks. I also invite the attendees if they have any questions. We are open to questions and we are open to the concluding remarks by the esteemed panelists. So we can start maybe by Mr. Datta.
This is also a very good, valid discussion, and we should carry it forward so that the policymakers should listen and also implement. Because implementation is the most vital factor. Because in most of the workshops and seminars, we do workshop, but it's zero. I think at least one or two recommendation if they can follow up or if they can do, that can be a good success. And second, I forgot about this. About the frontline staff. Actually, they require also motivation and sometimes that pat in the back. That you've done good work. So in between, if they can be exposed to or taken out of the forest and maybe being exposed to other parts of the country or maybe abroad, then it really makes sense. It gives them a boost to work more for what they have been doing for their whole life, because there is no life within the forest apart from what we see. But my practical experience, because one of my friends is a very good herpetologist and I've done lots of field work with him and I have stayed in the forest and I've seen the misery of these people. And during floods and all, it's more horrible because there is nothing except water all around. So if we could do something for them or integrate, or also we have proposed and to the park director in Kaziranga that we should also integrate a small kitchen garden concept within the premises, because apart from few basic food like rice, dal, or like the subjects that they are being sent from the department, there is hardly any nutrition food that they eat. Sometimes they do fishing and nothing else. So if we can integrate them into small kinds of activities, into gardening, into farming, then I think things might work out. Yes.
Thank you so much.
And also area specific, if we can do a good survey of what are the local plants which grows without too much of care, or which are not consumed by animals, that can be planted in the roadsides or in areas where the agroforestry can come up in a better way, then I think this will also boost the economy, because we can also indulge those local communities to take care of the forest, apart from giving some contractors to manage the agroforestry, and they can also benefit in a twin sharing basis. Yeah, that's what I have to say. I have some important work to do. I have to leave. It's already 6:30. Thank you so much. Very nice to meet Dr. Srikanth and Dr. Vijay. Please come and visit our farm.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Okay, Niharika, bye.
Dr. Tate, maybe you can give us the concluding remarks.
So obviously this was a very enriching discussion with the esteemed panelists. But here I would like to suggest having this discussion, like Sir had said, only having discussion is not sufficient. We have to move forward and see how this can be implemented. So it's also good to have perspectives of the government or the administration over here. So we can just invite those people also to have their perspective. The challenge is basically the face. We can sit over here and we can suggest changes, but obviously they are the ones who will be implementing these things. So we need to also open your ears and eyes to what challenges they are facing at the ground levels. Secondly, it will be good to have these discussions in regional languages also. So basically, it will expand the base of, and more people can join in for this. Talking about the forest staff, since I'm working for them to improve their health. So on a personal level, I feel like this is only this much that we can do as an organization or whatever conservation NGOs are doing. It's up to the forest department, the government, basically administration, to have this initiative and take things forward. So to improve the health of the forest staff. Thank you.
We'll take one question before we go to the final remarks by Mr. Srikanth. And the question is that this is by Dayal Kant Munda. He's saying that I'm also a rural futures fellow, and his question is that in community we have observed during our field visit that every household owns their own kitchen garden. How that can be scaled so that it becomes a good scalable model of agroforestry, and how can we create a good market linkage of it? So I think the expert has left, but either of the two could give give us some suggestion?
I can go. I think one of the ways in which we can scale up local initiatives like this is through the creation of cooperatives. If the community in each household in the community is practicing agroforestry, then obviously they have a pool of product and resources that they can take to market. So if they are able to form a cooperative and invite the business to come in and take advantage of the products that they are providing, that can be a solution for scaling up.
Thank you so much. I hope that answers the question. And now we can finally conclude and have the final remarks from Ms. Shrikant.
Yes, as both Dr. Take and Mr. Datta said, it's important that we are able to put whatever we have talked here into practice. One of the key things that I think is essential is that when we are talking about all this indigenous knowledge and efforts at local levels, we make sure that data that is being collected at these local levels is used in the programs and used in the programs and by the policy makers to address any issues in the community. So it is important. So one of the things that we normally see is there is a lot of data that is being generated, but what happens is all these data get aggregated at the central level. And then when it comes down, the disparities, the differences and the individual challenges that are faced by these communities get lost. So the programs and the policies that are coming out of such data don't actually address the specific needs of the community. So if we are able to make sure that there is enough of disaggregated data that gets to the policymakers, so that the challenges that are faced by these vulnerable communities, those in the front line of conservation, then that can go a long way in creating effective policies and programs.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's a very valid suggestion again, that now we've moved to the age of technology and digitization, and it's best that we adopt it and we move forward with it. I think the budget yesterday had a lot of the ingredients of digitization of all the different domains. So thank you so much, Ms. Shrikant. And that's how we conclude our session for today. I hope everyone had a good time and got the good insight. And I'm very thankful to the esteemed speaker who have given us their very valuable time to have this conversation with us. Over to you, Nayanika.
Yes, thank you so much, Astha. I would like to thank all the speakers for joining in today and for sharing your insights. And we always talk about forest conservation, but rarely do we talk about the health part of it. And the fact that we talked about the multitude aspects of health, from physical well-being to mental well-being to that of socioeconomic conditions improvement in our communities. So that makes it very, very wholesome. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, your knowledge, and for giving us the time. So with this, I would like to close the session today. Hopefully, we would be able to sort of have more collaborations in the future. And I would be sharing a report from the session today, sharing all your insights, your feedback, your knowledge that you shared. And I hope to receive the feedback on the same. And thank you yet again for joining. And we'll have more of these sessions till the end of this month. I'll be sharing the invites. Feel free to join in. And yes, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.